In 1715, someone took a knife to one of the greatest paintings ever made. Not a vandal, not a thief. The people who owned it, they cut it on all four sides. Two figures disappeared from the left. Part of the arch vanished above. Even the drum carried by a boy at the bottom was sliced in half. They did it because the painting didn't fit the wall of the room they had chosen for it. We know exactly what was lost because, by chance, someone had painted a copy before the cuts were made. That copy is now the only record of what Rembrandt actually painted. The original no longer exists. What hangs in the Rijksmuseum today, the painting millions of people travel to Amsterdam to see, is what survived the knife. And the strangest part is not that they cut it. The strangest part is why they had it in the first place. In 1642, Rembrandt van Rijn was the most sought-after portrait painter in Amsterdam, which, at the time, meant he was probably the most sought-after portrait painter in the world. Then came the commission. Amsterdam in 1642 was not a quiet city. It was the financial capital of Europe. Ships arrived from every corner of the globe. Merchants were becoming extraordinarily wealthy. And wealthy people, then as now, wanted one thing above all else: to be remembered. That's where Rembrandt came in. He had a gift that was almost unfair. He could look at a face and find what was human in it. The uncertainty behind confident eyes, the kindness hidden in a hard expression. His portraits didn't flatter, they revealed, and people paid enormous sums for that. By 1642, he had a large house on Jodenbraestraat, a studio full of students, a collection of objects and artworks he used as props and inspiration. He was, by every measure, at the peak of his career. 18 men paid to appear in the painting. Each one contributed a sum proportional to how prominently he wanted to be shown. The format was simple. The expectations were clear. You paint the men. You give each one his due presents. Everyone goes home satisfied. Rembrandt had done it before. Other painters had done it for decades. What he delivered was something else entirely. Instead of a composed, static group, men standing in rows, faces forward, each one visible and dignified, Rembrandt painted a moment, a company of militia at the exact instant of setting out. Motion, dust, shadow, a dog running at the bottom left, a girl in a golden dress who appears among the soldiers for reasons no one has ever fully explained. Two central figures. Captain Frans Banink Kock in black, his lieutenant Willem van Ruitenbush in yellow, caught mid-stride, mid-command. It was extraordinary. It was alive in a way that group portraits almost never were. And some of the men who paid for it could barely be seen. They paid. They vanished. Not from history, from the painting they commissioned to make sure that wouldn't happen. One man is half hidden behind a shoulder. Another is cropped by the frame itself. A third is so deep in shadow that his face has no expression, because you cannot see his face at all. They handed Rembrandt money to be remembered, and Rembrandt decided what remembrance looked like. Here is what we know. After the night watch, the commission slowed. The wealthy merchants of Amsterdam began choosing other painters. His income dropped. His debts grew. Here is what we don't know: whether the painting caused it. There is no document from 1642 recording that the militia members complained. No letter saying they were unhappy. No court case. No scandal. No public rejection. The story that the painting ruined his career. A story told and retold for centuries. Maybe at least in part. A story we constructed afterward to make sense of what happened next. What happened next was this. His wife, Saskia, died. The same year, 1642. She was 29. Rembrandt was left with a son, barely a year old, an enormous house, a mountain of debt, and a studio full of students who were beginning to surpass him. Whether the night watch damaged his reputation, or whether life simply collapsed around him at the same moment, we genuinely do not know. That is the truth. Not dramatic, not clean, just true. She had been his model for years, his wife, his muse. She appears in dozens of his paintings, every costume, every light, every mood. Between 1635 and 1641, she gave birth to 4 children. 3 of them died, weeks after being born. In 1641, a boy named Titus survived. By early 1642, Saskia could no longer leave the bed. Tuberculosis, slow, certain. Rembrandt drew her. Even then, lying there, eyes already distant. Those drawings still exist. She died on June 14th, 1642. She was 29 years old. The painting was finished that same year. He worked on that canvas while she was dying in the same house. Look at it carefully, not at the whole, at the parts. The first thing you notice is the light. Rembrandt is working in near-total darkness, broken open by sudden, violent light. The captain, in black, absorbs the light. His lieutenant, in yellow, radiates it. This is not an accident. Rembrandt is using light the way a theatre director uses a spotlight. Then the depth. This is not a flat arrangement of figures. There are men behind men, faces half obscured, a crowd pressing forward from the dark. No painter before him had made a crowd feel this real, this deep, this alive. And then, the third thing, the strange thing, is the girl. She appears between the soldiers, slightly left of center. She wears a golden dress. At her belt, a dead chicken, its claws pointing up. She is lit more brightly than almost anyone else in the painting. She looks directly out, not at the captain, not at the lieutenant, at us. No one knows who she is. No one knows why she is there. Some art historians believe she is a mascot figure, a symbolic emblem of the company. Others believe she represents something that Rembrandt's contemporaries recognized immediately, and that we no longer do. She has been staring out of that painting for nearly 400 years. She has not explained herself yet. The name itself is wrong. The Night Watch, De Nachtwacht, was not painted at night. The darkness that defines this painting, that gives it its atmosphere, that made people call it a night scene for a century. That darkness is varnish. Centuries of accumulated varnish and grime. Rembrandt painted daylight, golden, warm, early morning. The painting the world knows, the one with the dramatic shadows, the sense of nocturnal mystery, is not the painting Rembrandt made. And there is something else. Beneath the paint, there are marks no one was meant to see. Adjustments, second thoughts, lines he drew and then covered. What we see is not his first answer. It is the one he decided to show. And the girl in the golden dress. Art historians have compared her face to the face of Saskia. The same features, the same expression. There is no proof. There never will be. But Rembrandt had painted Saskia dozens of times. He knew her face better than he knew his own. And the year he finished this painting was the year she died. Draw your own conclusion. Rembrandt lived for 27 years after the Night Watch. They were not easy years. In 1656, he declared bankruptcy. His house, his collection, his prints, his paintings, everything was inventoried and sold to pay his creditors. He sold Saskia's gravestone to pay his debts. He moved to a smaller house in the Rozengracht. He did not live alone. A woman named Hendrikje Stoffels had moved into the house years before. She cooked, she cleaned, she raised Titus. She modelled for his paintings. She stayed when everyone else had already left. Rembrandt painted her the way he had once painted Saskia, with attention, with care, as if looking was a way of saying what he could not say out loud. She died in 1663. No ceremony, no monument. She was buried in a rented grave. His son Titus died in 1668, 27 years old, 11 months after his wedding. Rembrandt outlived everyone he loved. He died in 1669, 63 years old. The death register lists his name, the date, and nothing else. There was no public ceremony, no tribute from the city whose merchants he had made immortal. He was buried in an unmarked grave. 20 years later, the remains were removed. The grave disappeared. Nothing marked where he had been buried. The painting survived. It has been cut with a knife, slashed with a bread knife, sprayed with acid. 3 attacks, 3 restorations. Each time, it came back. You could read that as a triumph of preservation, or you could read it as something more uncomfortable. That we are far better at protecting objects than at recognizing the people who make them. Rembrandt painted 18 men who wanted to be remembered. Most of their names are known today only because of the painting. He painted a girl whose identity remains unknown after nearly 4 centuries. He painted a scene of daylight that the world decided to call night. He made something that outlasted everything: his wealth, his house, his children, his grave. They wanted to be remembered. Only one of them succeeded, and it wasn't any of the 18 men. The painting watched. It still watches. It never stopped. Most people look at paintings. Very few actually see them. If you saw something different in this canvas today, you know where to find the next secret, inside the artwork. If you're one of the few who actually see, not just look, subscribe.